Dragon Ball Super Chapter 60 is basically upon us already, even though it hasn't been officially released. The leaks are as impressive as ever as the Galactic Patrol prison arc continues in full force, even with the climax being right around the corner. Goku arriving back on Earth after his training with Beerus was broken up was exciting for the most part, seeing as how he arrived with full control over Ultra Instinct Omen. Moro, without too much effort it seems like though, was able to deduce or at least wait out the peak of his form in order to discover his weaknesses. Once again, Goku seems to not be able to maintain the form very long, even though he can harness the power at will now, and it seems like it may have just been a waiting game, although Moro has yet to reveal everything that he can do himself. Fair warning that this video does contain spoilers for Chapter 60, and it would seem like the time is finally now for the Prince to make his grand entrance. In the most recent chapter of Dragon Ball Super, Goku demonstrates a fair amount of his new power, with Moro reciprocating the same, although neither having gotten serious yet, but this fight seems to have only just begun. Among other things, not only does it seem like Moro may still have the upper hand, but Ultra Instinct so far has been far more underwhelming in this battle than we thought, as Goku chooses really early on to forego his original plan that he agreed to with Beerus before he left, and this is pretty much where the chapter starts off, centered around Goku's decision to put it all on the line right here and right now. Is Beerus' miscalculation, and it looks like it's definitely following suit. So it seems like against his better judgment and the guidance of Beerus, Goku is taking matters into his own hands, seeing as how even with Ultra Instinct, Moro is no ordinary opponent. Back in the God Realm, as the chapter starts off, it seems that Whis and Beerus take notice of this as well as they watch the battle. Goku powers up to his full strength, or at least what he's capable of at the moment, showing no regard really for what could happen to his body for doing this, because Moro decides that they should end this now as well, with him powering up too, but the ferociousness of Goku's energy seems to be just a bit more intimidating here. Moro and Goku are then set to clash for a little while longer, with Goku getting a fair amount of damage in before he's able to do the same, but this is when a very interesting moment happens, and when the chapter finally does drop, I kinda want to speak more about this once we see the details, but Moro, after witnessing Goku's full power and clashing with it, concludes that Goku definitely can't beat him. This is really interesting to me to have Moro say this just outright after seeing Goku's full power, which dropped the jaws of the gods themselves. Without consuming the chapter as a whole, I can't really draw the most complex theory right now, but this would mean that somehow, combined with his magic and the energy he stole from the countless people and planets, Moro has also far exceeded past mortal limits. Now, perfected or not, the form Goku has undergone is one that the gods of destruction themselves have difficulty using, but I don't necessarily think Moro thinks he can overpower Goku, if that makes sense. Moro is an intelligent fighter, not a hot-headed one, and these clashes with Goku weren't to defeat him. They were to gather information, which is exactly what he did. Back on Beerus' planet, Whis and Beerus are still spectating, and Beerus looks to be extremely worried about Goku exhausting himself so early, but Whis makes a really good point here. Moro definitely isn't a pushover as we've seen, so if Goku holds back, will he even be able to push him into a corner before long? Moro isn't exactly exhausting the same reserves as Goku, and on top of that, he has his absorption technique that he hasn't even used in the current fight. As a matter of fact, he gave a ton of energy to Saganbo and blew the guy up. Unfortunately, this is when even Beerus has to admit that he messed up. He didn't expect Moro to be such a problem for the mortals, but seeing his full power alongside Goku's, it seems they made a terrible underestimation. But Goku does have that X factor of being a Saiyan still, and that could play a part here. Finally, the chapter cuts over to what we've all been anticipating. Vegeta, back on planet Yardrat as it seems, has succeeded in learning whatever this mysterious new technique of his is, and the text tells us that it leaves many of the little Yardratians around him knocked out on the ground with no power. Now, no one knows for sure exactly what Vegeta's new technique is, but judging just from the chapter summary that was translated as well as the tweets from Dragon Ball Hype, who is a credible source, it seems like it may be something along the lines of a stand, most notably from JoJo, and how it gets translated into it left many of the little Yardratians on the ground with no power. To me, that sounds something like hockey. But that's just me. Let me know what you think down in the comments, but if it's something like a mix between a stand and like Conqueror's hockey, that could be a thing. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts though. Now that Vegeta's training is pretty much done, everyone is healed by Paibara, and now Vegeta is ready to head back to Earth. The only problem is the ship that he and Eriko took to get here would take them 10 days to return to Earth. Even Paibara himself, the elder of the Yardrat people, wouldn't be able to return Vegeta to Earth using the instant transmission himself because of Goku being in his UI form and his power being unreadable to those that aren't gods. So now, Vegeta has been presented with one last training session on the spot before he can even leave, learning instant transmission. If Vegeta wants to get back to Earth before things go from bad to ugly, he's going to have to learn a pretty difficult technique at the speed of light, because back on Earth, Goku is being bullied by Moro, who mocks him for reaching his limits so quickly. Goku only gets frustrated and tries to force out more of his power, but to no success, and ends up leaving him on the ground. No protagonist power up for the moment here, Goku, relax. But it seems like Whis has started to write off Goku as well, saying that it doesn't seem like they'll be getting that same miracle this time. But this is when Beerus cuts in completely oblivious, telling Whis that he's hungry so they should go get food, to which Whis agrees. Beerus is torn as his fears are coming true before his very eyes, seeing Goku begin to lose like this, but Whis tells him that this is just a necessary cycle of universes. Planets are both born and disappear, and these are the tasks of the gods of destruction and the Supreme Kais. The angels have no say in this, which Whis sternly reminds his brother. This small section of the leaks is so significant as it reinforces how the gods and angels operate under a no tolerance policy, but I did see a lot of people upset, or maybe not upset, at least kind of confused about why this is happening on Twitter or why Whis is saying this, and a lot of people seem to think that Whis and Beerus really aren't their friends and they don't care. Now, me personally, I could be wrong. I'm not, Toriyama, I'm not Toyotaro, but I think that is 100% wrong. We know that Whis and Beerus both care for Goku and Vegeta, and they've proven that with past actions, which is ultimately why I think Whis is being so strict with Beerus. Whis, with as much preaching as he's doing to his brother right now, has, in my opinion, gotten a little bit attached to Goku and Vegeta, which is why I think he's able to be the one to watch over Beerus right now, because he speaks from that experience of writing a fine line called the Angel Code. And I've talked about this before a lot, like if those rules were so strict like he says, would he have really trained Goku? Would he have really, reset time back in Resurrection F? Would he have really stepped in versus Broly? I don't know, guys, but what do you think about that? But we've talked about all of this before. As if things weren't already looking pretty bad, it looks like Goku gets knocked to the ground one more time, and this time he drops completely out of the form, and now it looks like Moro's gonna try to absorb him now that his energy's gone. Luckily, 17 and 18 are seen stepping in at the perfect time, so if Moro wants to absorb anyone, he'll have to get past the ones he can't first, but honestly, how long can these two hold him off by themselves? Vegeta is struggling with instant transmission back on Yardrat, failing the first few times as he can't really get the hang of locking onto someone's spirit properly right away. When Goku is knocked out of his Ultra Instinct form though, everyone senses his weakened state as they figure he must have lost, so the Elder decides that he'll do what he can to get Vegeta back to Earth now, declaring it an emergency situation. But Vegeta tells him no, saying that he thinks he has the hang of this now. Vegeta gets changed back into his regular clothes as he bids farewell to Paibara and the people of Yardrat, and after locking on to Goku's spirit, he zips away, having learned much faster than Goku ever did. Back on Earth, the battle is almost at a stalemate between Moro, who is realizing that he can't absorb the android's energy at all, and the androids who fear that Moro is far more durable than they are. But all of a sudden, Vegeta appears, wasting absolutely no time. When he shows up before Goku, they have a quick talk about what happened just before then with the Ultra Instinct and how Vegeta's learned instant transmission among other things. But he says that that's the first and last time he plans on using that teleportation technique because he has no need to copy Goku, and he possesses a much more advanced technique now. Finally, Vegeta approaches Moro, no doubt with a smirk on his face. I don't even have to see a panel to know my man is smirking right now. And he asked him, "Did you have fun fighting the weaklings while I was gone?" Which is classic Vegeta. Vegeta erupts with power, transforming into Super Saiyan Blue evolution, declaring that now, Moro will face someone stronger than himself. Gohan and Piccolo both notice that this is the same Super Saiyan Blue form from the tournament, but his energy doesn't feel any different at all, so what did Vegeta learn and why is he so confident with no obvious rise in power? That is going to wrap up the Chapter 60 spoilers and leaks for Dragon Ball Super. I hope you all enjoyed the video. As always, Down below in the comments, I feel like we could talk about so much with this chapter, but the one thing that I do want to know from you guys, how do you feel about Whis and Beerus just, pretty much saying we're not gonna step in at all, no matter what happens? I know a lot of people might be upset, some people might be annoyed, but we already knew what it was when Beerus and Whis they didn't explain the rules for a while, but we already knew what it was, guys. We knew they could only do so much, so can you really blame them? And like I said before, I feel like, having an angel is probably a little bit more significant than worrying about Goku and Vegeta, even though they have for sure been putting in that work, as long as we've known them. There's no doubt about that, but I'm just trying to look at the bigger picture and see things from Whis and Beerus' perspective and everything like that.